pretty sure I'm not the only one, but whenever I go on a trip, I like to have a tool set, an assortment of different things to work on the vehicle, no matter what it is. If we're going to be going, away on vacation, whether it be now it's the 64 Chevy truck that we have, or it might be with our GMC Terrain, or done with the Suzuki Vitara, where we've gone around the country on vacation. And you just don't know what's going to happen. And so when we go out, my wife and I, on vacation, I like to carry, I always have, a big tool bag full of an assortment of different things, as well as, just a cheap socket set with an assortment of different tools in there. And we have utilized those numerous times at campsites around the country. It might have been, we took the Vitara out through Tin Cup Pass in Colorado, and it was more than the vehicle should have done, but it did it fine. And we broke a anti-sway bar link, and it was crunching around, and we could have got back, but why? So, go online and go get something delivered to Napa, and you grab a couple of wrenches and replace it right there in the campsite. Or a battery goes bad. That happened to us out in Cody, Wyoming, and I had the tools available to be able to replace that right in our campsite. And different things that have happened. So it's just, I like options. And so no, for the 64 Chevy that we have, I don't want to have a big tool set. It doesn't have any space behind the rear seat or behind the seat, because it's the gas tank's there. So there's a very small amount of real estate to be able to put stuff in. We're not going to put a toolbox in the back. And so it needs to be something small. As you've seen behind me, a tool roll really will fit that bill. This one is made by Readyware Supply Company. Found it on Amazon, and to be honest with you, I've only just felt it, used it, put some tools in it, but I don't know how long it will last. It looks really good. It is tough, durable, it seems. So time will tell. But I think it's made in China, but it's a U.S. company. So not a whole lot of options that I had seen out there. This one just kind of looked the best. And so I'm going to go through some of the tools that we're going to be putting in there. And first off is going to be wrenches. I do like, these are just cheap, Pittsburgh, made from Harbor Freight, but they're polished. And so if you're getting them greasy, you can wipe them off before they go back in the set. So 1/4 inch up through 3/4. Anything beyond 3/4 is probably not something I'm going to be able to do on the side of the road anyway. And 3/4 is big enough that it will go on a socket wrench if I need to be able to, or a ratchet wrench if I need to use it as a breaker bar. So that is one of the reasons why I went to the 3/4. So having the ratchet in my hand, 3/8 drive, and an assortment of sockets. Up through 7/8 of an inch, and so it goes down to 1/4 inch and 3/8 drive. But there are a number of things, especially with it being a starter or other electronic things, they do need some smaller sizes, especially like an 11/32 or 5/16 on your starter. And so I have a 3/8 by 1/4 adapter and a couple of smaller sockets. I think 11/32 and then 7/32 being the smallest. So those are the sockets that I'll carry all the time for this truck. And then for screwdrivers, I don't have a whole lot of real estate in there, so I went ahead, and this is a Craftsman, but it's just a 1/4 inch drive, and then an assortment of different sizes here, 1 through 3 in Phillips, and then 2 sizes of flat blade, and then I think T10 through T20 or 25 on the Torx bit, which I have, they're already in there. There's nothing Torx in the 64. And then 5/16 nut driver, in case I just needed that. There are some 5/16 things on this vehicle. So these tools that I'm going to use in here would not necessarily be for everybody. They're for me, and they're for our situation in our truck. And perfect example of that is the Allen set that I have for it. The 1/4, I believe it's the 1/4. No, it's the 3/16. The 3/16 is for our valve covers. They're actually Vortec heads, so it has 4 center bolt covers on it, and those are socket cap screw, and so that takes 3/16. The timing cover takes the 3/16, and so I want to make sure I had that size in there. And then on the smaller sizes, the 3/32 is for a set screw for an adjustment on the carburetor. And the smallest one, the 5/64, I have zero need for that one on this vehicle, none. And so I took it out of there, and I have a 2.5 millimeter in there, because 2.5 millimeter is the size of the vacuum advance on the distributor. And so that one is one that I will use in here. And so you take out what you don't need, put in what you do. And so for our situation, these would be the set that I need. So for your situation, you can modify those tools to fit your need. It doesn't have to fit everybody else's. And then always need a couple of pairs of vice grips. I had extra space, so I went ahead and got a small pair of needle nose in there. But you need some vice grips just because I also want to have a little bit of wire and some inline butt connectors. Just you don't know what's going to happen in wiring, and so I don't need a lot, but I want to have options there, as well as a few different fuses. Now it's a 64, but we did change over all the wiring to newer style wiring, and so it takes the newer style fuses, and so different size fuses that we will make sure that we carry. A couple of different extensions, 6-inch and 3-inch, and some electrical tape, a knife. That's always good to have a knife with you. And what I did on this is it was a little bit fat on the thickness, and so I just put it through the belt sander and knocked that down a little bit. And wire, about 6 feet of wire that I went ahead and wrapped on itself, so it'll fit nice into the zipper pouch in here. And then everyone has to have zip ties. They're used everywhere. So having a good amount of zip ties in there. I like to have a wing nut in there just so that the air cleaner, if I'm taking it off and it gets lost somewhere in the desert, I have another one available. Just in case, I do have to have a little bit larger wrench than that 3/4 of an inch. A nice 8-inch adjustable wrench that has a really wide mouth. I don't think there might be 1 or 2 bolts on this whole truck that wouldn't fit. And then a file and a small screwdriver for carburetor adjustments. And then the last thing is I wanted to have a hammer. I want a hammer in there. Just, you never know what you might want to beat on. And so the one problem with a hammer is the width of it is just too much when you're trying to roll something. And so I have a buddy that's a machinist, and we took an Ace hammer with a hickory handle. It's a 24-ounce ball peen hammer, and I asked him to cut the peen end off because I didn't need that at all, and then to cut the head off along with some of the meat in between the head here and the main part of the head hammer. And so what he did is he went ahead and drilled and tapped this end as well as the head, and went with 3/8/16. And then I took a small grade 5 3/8/16 bolt, cut it off so I can slide that in there, tighten that on, and now we have a reasonably heavy hammer. I think it's probably, I don't know, anywhere from 12 to 16 ounces, and I cut about 2.5 inches off of the handle. And so if I need to beat on something, I have it, I'll be able to. And when I go to pull it off, this thing unthreads, and because the face is hit before this thing is ever tight, this thing never gets locked in there. And so these 2 pieces can go into the zippered pouch. This goes into an actual pocket inside there, and it rolls up really nicely because its width is so small. So I might need 1 or 2 other little things in there. I think I have the space for them, and I'm going to go ahead and put these in there, and then I'll show you how it looks when we're done. All right, this is how it all fits in there. Got all of my wrenches over here, and screwdrivers, ratchet. What I did is I have both. Neither one of these won't fit into the other side. They're too tall. And so I had them going into the same side of the pocket. That way, when I roll it up and set it into its spot that I'm gonna have it, which I'll show to you in a second, is they're both into a pocket in the same way. That way, when it sits into that pocket, you know, I can have that so that the gravity's gonna hold them into place, and they're not gonna wanna slide out as if, you know, if I had them the other in opposite directions, one way or the other, one of them's gonna wanna fall out. And so that's why I oriented it that way. And everything else fits right in here. And then I talked to my dad, and he said, you need to have a tube of a hand cleaner in there. And I couldn't find a tube of hand cleaner small enough. And so what I decided to do is I'll just have a pair of gloves, and that can set in there, and then a little bit of shop towel will roll up in there nicely, just in case I need to check oil or anything like that. That'll roll in there and won't hardly take up any space. And so we'll go ahead and roll this thing up, and we'll see how tight we can get it. Okay, rolling up sleeping bag. All right, so don't stress them out. Go ahead and loosen that up just a touch. Cinch those down, and then they do have a nice little sleeve in here, so that those tails can be tucked back in nicely. So nice handle, and now you can see both of those are on that end. So when I set it in the truck, I will set it in this way, where it will be nestled in there, and none of those things will fall out. Curious what it weighs. I should go ahead and weigh it. I'll go ahead and I'll leave that down below so we can see how much so that you'll know how much it weighs. All right, I actually, instead of putting it down there, it's 11 pounds. I just weighed it. 11 pounds, and we'll go around. My wife sells on eBay, and so that's all her eBay stuff back there. And so here's the truck. We'll go ahead and put it in there. All right, so right here, oh boy, I need to vacuum that baby up. We went and tripped to Mackinac, and it's still dirty. And so back here, that's gas tank. I don't have any space back there. Underneath the seat isn't an option, just the way that all the workings are for the seat mechanism, as well as my wife puts a coat back there, or underneath there. And so down there in the cab corner, there's a bit of a hole. And so sits in there real nicely, and you just always see down in there where it is. And now I have, actually I just thought about it, kind of matches the upholstery. And so now I have my tool set if we ever need it. So I'd say hopefully we don't, but plan on keeping this for a long time, so I'm sure we will. All right, I think the craziest thing that I have had to work on the side of the road, on my own personal vehicles, now I'm sure many of you will have much crazier things, and by all means, let me know in the comments. I really like it. This kind of thing totally interests me. It's right up my alley to hear what you've had to do on the side of the road. I think being able to work yourself out of a bad situation with things that you have on hand is awesome. And so I'm curious to see what you've had to do. But the craziest thing I think I've had to do, I think I was, I don't know, 24, 25, and I had a Dodge Dakota pickup. I can't remember the year now, but it had a 4-banger and a 5-speed. And I'm heading out of Grand Rapids, headed toward Muskegon, where we live. And the thing just started to run like garbage. Just, you know, it had a dead miss. And you only got 4 cylinders, so when you get a miss on one of them, it's bad. And so I pull right off the side of the road and go underneath the hood, just seeing what's going on, and it's a dead miss. And so, you know, what am I going to do? You know, I don't want to call somebody first. So I had a small little socket set and some tools. I work construction, so I always have, you know, construction tools with me, but I also had a socket set. And so I go underneath and figured I would start with the valve train. So I pulled the air box and all that kind of stuff off the top and pull the valve cover, and right away you could see one of the rocker arms is just flopping around. And so what happened is I dropped a lifter, and so I went ahead, pulled both rocker arms off of that cylinder, pulled the push rods out. It was fuel injected, so I just disconnected that fuel injector and then put it all back together and, you know, drove it home on 3 cylinders, but at least it wasn't clattering anymore. Still a dead miss, but we were able to get it home. AutoZone had a lifter in stock, popped the lifter in there, put it all back together, and I was, you know, pulling out of the garage about 9 o'clock that night, and, you know, was able to drive it to work the next day. But if I wouldn't have had those tools on the side of the, you know, on the side of the road, you know, it would have been flat-toed to wherever it needed to be, and I was so far away from home, it would have been too difficult to on the expressway to be able to pull it home. And so it would have had the expense of having to have it hauled, and not just the expense, just the annoyance. And this way I was able to do it on my own, and there's that sense of pride that you get for that. And, you know, it was 15 years ago, and, you know, there's still that, you know, a little bit of a sense of pride there. And yeah, so I was thankful that I was able to do that. But go ahead and leave it in the comments below what the crazy things that you've had to do on the side of the road. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Bye.